Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our webinar series, Bringing Women Back to Work. My name is Supriya. I am part of the academics team here at Lincoln University of Business and Management. Once again, welcome to all of you. Before starting, I will take you through the flow of today's webinar. From 2:30 to 2:35, I will be introducing you to our organization, to our speaker, as well as the topic. And from 2:35 to 3:50 p.m., Miss Marina Van Zyl, our speaker today, she will be taking over and taking you through this webinar. From 3:50 to 3:55 p.m., the floor will be open for your questions, which Ms. Marina will be answering. And from 3:55 p.m. to 4, we will be closing today's webinar. So once again, welcome to all of you. And I will just begin my introduction. So we are Lincoln University of Business and Management based here in the United Arab Emirates. And this is an organization that started in 2014, and we have provided quality education since then to numerous students from different parts of the world. We believe that good education should be available to everyone who is willing to learn at any age, and hence our programs are specifically catered to working professionals. We offer graduate and postgraduate courses with emphasis on practical skill development and building confidence so that our students have greater employability and are able to face challenges that may come their way in their professional lives. We are proud to say that women make up a large part of our student base. They have played an integral part in our growth, not only as an educational institution, but one that strives for positive social change. So it was only natural that this year, on the occasion of International Women's Day, Lincoln University resolved to play its part towards contributing to encourage women's active participation in professional setups, decision-making, and leadership. Today's topic is how to start a small-scale business. This topic is a salient one for all endeavors that hope to support women reach their full potential. According to various reports, over the last 20 years, the figure of women-owned businesses has grown considerably. But this statistic only tells a small part of the story, as women-owned businesses are still in minority, and the hurdles faced by women who have embraced entrepreneurships are vast and often very different from those that are encountered by their male counterparts. Some of these challenges that women may face while trying to be business owners are those of defying social expectations, accessing funding, and balancing business and family life. We are hopeful that through this webinar, How to Start a Small-Scale Business, we can contribute towards supporting women who aspire to be business owners and entrepreneurs, and empower them with skills essential to build businesses as well as be leaders and navigate and survive today's competitive business environment. Our speaker today is Ms. Marina Van Zyl, who, having played a leading role in executive development for over a decade now, has exceptional ability to design, develop, and implement powerful and insightful executive development programs and courses for global business leaders. Her expertise comes from having worked for diverse leadership development organizations, executing these programs in many countries, including South Africa, Tanzania, and now the United Arab Emirates. Her ability to deal with multinational organizations and individuals across different levels of leadership has resulted in her co-founding her own organization, Platform for Connected Leadership. As a business leader, she currently holds the position of CEO to the organization. spearheading the vision and driving business development with passion, drive, and clear direction. So without further ado, I call upon Ms. Marina to begin today's webinar. Ms. Marina?
Hi, Sylvia. Thank you so very much for that introduction. I always have to tell myself when people introduce me that, yeah, some of it is actually true. I have gotten to this point in my life. And it's sometimes, as you've mentioned, the challenges that we have as women entrepreneurs, it can sometimes, you have to kind of remind yourself that, yeah, that is kind of where I've gotten to my life. So, ladies, welcome to this session this afternoon. It's great to have all of you online with us. Thank you for Lincoln and Meg and her team for arranging this. So I really do hope that through today's session, I can answer some of your questions. Maybe some of the information we'll cover will have some of the pressing concerns or challenges that you're facing right now. So let's hope that we can all get that sorted out. So I'm going to share my screen. If I could just, once I've shared this screen, just a reminder to our participants that I can't necessarily see you while I'm sharing the screen, but I will maybe get some assistance in terms of if there is somebody that wants to chat or send me a message through this. So just a quick indication, if I can maybe just get some reaction from the participants, just to say that you can see my screen very clearly. You should be able to see just a short profile of me right now and that you can hear me clearly. If we can maybe just a quick, maybe in the chat box. Raisa, thank you so very much for that response. I appreciate it. Okay, ladies, so Supriya, thank you again for that introduction. Just from my side as well, my name is Marina. I was originally born in Namibia, which is a small country in Africa. Small town girl, left Namibia for greener pastures, bigger worlds, ended up in the UAE where I have co-founded, I'm a co-owner, partner of Platform for Connected Leadership. I am the CEO, although I don't normally tell people that. And in terms of my own background, I'm a lawyer by education, but my true passion was leadership development, which I have now done that for quite a few years. And then I'm also a certified practitioner in the 5 lens, which is on the human behavioral psychology side. So just a couple of pointers for today on engaging in the session, just to make sure that when you want to talk to me, you have the mute and unmute function. There's some reactions today that you can share if you want to share how you're feeling, maybe just a quick reaction in terms of an emoji. If you have a question, raise your hand and we can address that. You can send a chat either to me directly or to all of the participants. So all of that you can find under reactions, chat, or the mute and unmute function. If I'm talking too fast, which I have been told that I do, there is an option to ask me to go a little bit slower or go back to the previous slide, and we can maybe just readdress something that I might have gone over too quickly. So to start to test some of these functions, if I can just get some feedback from the participants on what is it that you expect from this session today, what do you want out of this session? Drop me a message in the message box, and we can quickly, see if what I have prepared for you is in line with what it is that you expect from this webinar. So if you take the chat function at the bottom, you can send the message to everyone, and then we can quickly see if there is some alignment on what I am doing today versus what is it that you expect from this session. I don't seem to be getting any chats in. Okay, Clara is saying that she would like to understand how she can get fully returned to work, possibly work in the UAE. Clara, we will most likely, discuss a little bit more on starting your own company. How does that all work? But let's see, maybe there's a couple of pointers there that comes out of the session today that can help you with addressing that as well. Okay, so I am quickly going to shift over. So just a little bit of a fun exercise, just to break the ice, just to get everyone going. I want you to send me your emoticon. I want you to tell me how are you feeling today by sending me an emoji. So you have the options in terms of the reactions, to react with an emoji. I would very much like just for you to tell me how do you feel today, just based off of the emotion. Sharon seems to be very happy. So let's see how that goes. Orion seems to be upset about something. I am also getting some of the messages. Nadine seems to be looking cool. Daryl is come. Oh, look at that. We've got quite a couple of reactions here. So we seem to have quite a mixed emotion of how people are feeling today. Bev seems to be inquisitive. So let's see how we can help her with that. Fantastic, ladies. Thank you so very much. I'm really loving these emojis that are coming through. And I seem to be getting a couple of more chats on what people are expecting today. So hopefully we can address some of those questions that you have as well as we go through the session. Okay, so what we're going to be covering during the sessions between today and tomorrow, we're going to talk about the idea around the business, what goes into it, the brand, the platform, and then what I like to call the balancing act. So we'll start off with the idea. Under the idea, I'm going to cover a few things that are required when you start to think about building your own business. There's always all of these questions. Where do I start? What do I have to do? What's needed? A lot of questions that goes in when you say, okay, I have an idea, but where do I start or where do I go with this idea? So the first thing that we need to talk about when we talk about your idea is we need to ask you, what is your why? Now, what do we mean when we say that? So if we look at the golden triangle or the golden circle in terms of what it is that we're doing, we start off by saying what, which is the outside of our idea. Everyone knows what it is that they want to do. We look at how do you want to do this? What is going to be your value proposition, your unique selling point? How are you going to get the business in? But the big question is the why. What is your cause, your purpose? What do you believe in? And why do you exist? Why does this company exist in this network? So I quickly want you to maybe, just scan this code or go to menti.com. I'm going to put it live up on the screen. We're going to get some participation from people to say, what is your why? Why do you want to do what it is that you want to do? So let's quickly scan that code. Let's join the chat. I am going to switch between the two. And then we see, what is it that people are saying right now? Why do they want to do what it is that they want to do? Okay, ladies, so how this works is once you have scanned the code and you have the access to the Mentimeter, or you've gone to menti.com and you've used the code, you can start to enter some words. As the words pop up onto the screen, we will start to see, what is it why are we doing this? If you agree with something that somebody has already said, you can resend the same message, and then those words will start to become bigger. So let's see, what is it that we have out there? What is our why? So while these words come in, I'll talk to you a little bit about mine. So I am a CEO of a company for leadership development training. Now, a lot of people will think, why? Because, I enjoy training. I love helping people. My real why this company exists is because I and my partners quite fundamentally believe that every single individual has greatness in them, and that with the right motivation and development, that greatness can be brought out into people. They can be inspired to supersede everything that they're already doing. You have a KPI at work that says this is what you have to do in life, or this is what you have to do as part of your job, but that's just, it's a limitation. when you start to explore your own abilities and you start to break free from that, you actually get to a point where a KPI is just a KPI. Your greatness is what drives you and what pushes you for what it is that you want to do. So if I had to put on a word here, my why would be greatness. We seem to be having somebody have unmuted. If there's a question, do let me know. Okay, we have about 7 entries on this. I do know there's a couple of more ladies online. Can we maybe, just try for just a few more entries? If you're struggling, just raise your hand. Let me help you with it. But it seems like we're getting quite a few things through: unlocking self-potential, self-improvement, happiness, helping people, fulfilling a dream, wealth, which is always a good one, necessity, which might be, a little bit of a challenge that you have. So we're getting a couple of good responses in here. Okay, well, ladies, you can continue to submit through while we go through all of the other slides. As you see, the word cloud will continuously change. I will make sure that this is available afterwards, should anyone want to, have this for their own reference. But as we continue with the session, you're welcome to continue to submit. And by the end of or closer to today's session, we'll see where do we stand with this. Okay, so the very first thing when we start to look at our idea is the name. What is going to be the name of this company? How do you, where do you get the inspiration from? Is it maybe something a little bit more personal? Maybe you have something in the back of your mind, but you're not entirely certain. One of the slides that I'll make sure is available to everyone contains a couple of useful links. Now, when I'm going to use myself as an example, that's right now the only benchmark that I have. So when we started with Platform for Connected Leadership, or PCL for short, we weren't really certain of what are we going to call this. We know what we wanted. We know what we wanted to do and why we wanted to do it, but it was finding that right name, that's something that tells people who you are or what you are. So there's a couple of ideas when it goes into that, brainstorming with some friends on it. I've given you a link in one of the slides to say, go and look at some of the free name generators out there. Maybe you get some inspiration from it. So when we started with PCL, we knew what we wanted to focus on is connected leadership, but we were trying to find the right name. And through brainstorming and getting ideas in from different people, we eventually came across Platform for Connected Leadership. And that's how we ended up selecting the name as well, because what we wanted was connected leadership. But what we wanted to build was a platform for people to come together to be able to share their knowledge, their expertise, and we combined it to get our company name. So when you start about the name, ask your friends, ask your family, maybe get a few people together that you can speak to about this, people that you can trust, or even just people that that understand you, and brainstorm a little bit. Go and look at some name generators, see what is out there that can help you to generate your name. Now, of course, when it comes to having generated that name, we will talk about the legalities in a bit later on. But the first thing that I do recommend is go and find out if that name is still available in the UAE, and that you can actually buy that name from wherever, whether it's a free zone or a mainland, to make sure that you secure the name of the company that you want to register. From there on out, we need to start to talk about the business plan. So the business plan, for a lot of people, it can be a little bit daunting. I have again shared a couple of links in one of the other slides to help you with that. There's a lot of free sites out there that gives you free templates that you can use, whether it's business documents, legal documents, financial documents, the type of stuff that you need to sort of create that little process and internal structure, but might not necessarily, have the funds to actually pay for somebody to provide you with this. Your first initial I almost want to say year of the organization does not need to be expensive. You can find free sites that can help you with this. Sites that you can go and look at to say, okay, I basically just need, a proper financial document that I can use for my cash flow. There's free sites that give this to you. So in those first couple of months, as you start to build a company, and I can say this from experience, use as much of the free resources that you can find online. They are available. So when you start to look at the plan, there's a couple of things that you need to look at that needs to go into this business plan. The one is your customers. Who are you targeting in the UAE? What are the type of people that you want to attract, and where are you going to find them? So there's a lot of research that you can do to say, so let's say you are trying to go into the beauty industry. You're going to sell homemade skincare products. There's a huge market for that in the UAE, but where do you find the right customers? Who are the people that you're targeting? So go and look at what some of the other companies are doing. Now, you don't have to try and do exactly what somebody else is doing, but it gives you a good idea of what people are interested in and how much are they willing to pay for the product. So, first go and find out who's your customers, who am I going to target, and who do I want to bring into the organization? Along with that, the big question is always the money. How are you going to fund this? So as a business plan, whether you are registering as a free zone in the UAE or as a mainland, your business plan needs to contain, as we've said, the idea, the name. So what is this company? Who are you? Who are your customers that you're targeting? And how are you funding this? Now, there's a lot of ways to do the funding. It's either financed from yourself, your own pocket, a financial partner, be it a secondary person that you're bringing in. A financial partner does not necessarily have to be a bank getting a business loan. You might have friends or family that can help you with this. But look at your financials. How are you going to fund this? And also equally, what's your budget going to look like? Your price point. What are you going to sell the products for? Do you have more or less an estimate to say that over the next 6 months, let's take an example, you're funding this yourself. So let's say you put 50,000 into the business to start the funding with it. Now that might sound like a big amount, but I'm just using an example for now. So you're saying you're putting in 50,000. Now that is effectively already an expense for the company. Even though it's the partner contribution, it is also seen in accounting as something that unless the partner decides that they don't want the money back, it needs to sit as, it's an external fund. It is not yet profit. Then you need to look at, okay, how am I going to create my budget? What is my price point? What am I selling it for? And then do a little bit of a projection to say in the next 6 months, if I have a skincare company and I'm selling homemade products, how many products do I have to sell to make up for the fact that the 50,000 is not profit? It was put into the company by either myself or through a loan. And then start to look at, okay, at what point are you going to reach break even? So break even meaning you have now, made the same amount of money as what you've put into the company. And then how much more do you need to be able to push the company in order to start to make a profit? So when you look at the money, look at it from all of those angles. How much am I putting in? How much do I need to go and sell to try and make this back? How much of the money is going to go to operational expenses and marketing expenses? So plan out, even if it's just an idea for now, or even just a projection, a cash flow so that you can see how much time do you need to give yourself in order to make this business work. Following from the money always comes the legalities. Where do we register? How do we register? Am I going free zone? Am I going with a landline license? So those are the type of questions that even before you start to look at, what else you need to do, that is the big thing that goes into this. Free zone is always, it's maybe easier if it's going to be a very small company. There's a lot of free zones in the UAE, especially some of the free zones in Ras Al Khaimah. that promotes licenses for women entrepreneurs. They make it easier. They give you everything that you need to at least just start the company from a legal perspective. So I have, again, on one of the other slides where I've given some helpful links, I've added in, go and look at some of the free zones in the UAE. Go and look at what are some of the legal structures in the UAE. Into your legalities goes the registration of your company name, your license, your physical address, your trading, what do they call that? Your trading name and your trading activity that you're going to do. So there's a lot of, I almost want to say, background research when it comes to putting that in. And for that particular registration, all of the paperwork needs to be completed before the time. You need to have the business plan. You need to have a more or less a financial model, and then you start to run with the legalities. So once we have sorted out our legal side, we also need to look at the brand. So just a really quick check-in, just to see if everybody is still following me. Just a quick message from your side, just to make sure I didn't go over anything too quickly. Any questions at this point? Bev says okay. Zohera says yes. Okay. So part of the plan of the company and what it is, the idea and everything, is also the brand that goes into the organization. So when you start to look at your brand, you need to look at quite a couple of things. One of the major things is not just your logo, but your brand concept. So what do I mean when I say brand concept? Now, your logo is one thing. Your brand concept speaks about the colors that you're choosing for the organization, that very first interaction that people have with you. So when you have your logo, yes, that's your identity, but your brand concept, the color that goes with that, that's sort of, I almost want to say, the beauty of your brand, your brand look and feel, what people think about, what they feel, what they experience when they interact with the brand. Color actually plays a very, very big role when it comes to creating the brand concept. You have certain colors that speak to different industries, that speak to different feelings. If you create a brand, and if I can use my own company brand again, we have the dark background, which indicates, a bit of a luxury feel to it. We have our logo, which is done in colors of bronze and gold, which gives that, I almost want to say that wow element to it. So, but the overall feel, that's just our logo. But if you look at the company brand in total, it's a splash of colors. We have interactivity. We have colors that sort of make you think and feel of different things when you look at it. And that's what I talk about when I say the brand concept. It's that first experience that people have when they interact with your brand. It's how they perceive it, how they feel about it. There's a lot of, I almost want to say, different elements that goes into a brand. So those are some of the things that you need to take into consideration. And along with that brand is, how are you going to market it? So we mentioned earlier about getting the company name. Your next step in terms of your brand is your website. Now, when you start to do your website, there's a couple of options to take into consideration. The one is, do you go with a .com, considering that we still work in a global era, or do you go with a .ae, which is a little bit more geared towards the UAE? So these are some of the things to think about. Then you need to look at domains. What is going to be the website name? What is that domain that you're going to use? Is that domain going to just be for the website? Or are you looking at using that domain for a lot of other things? Is that going to be your email domain? Do you have a platform that you're going to build where you have checkout pages? And once you do that, and take this advice from me, go search whether you go with .com or .ae or both, if you can. if there is a domain that is close to yours or similar to yours, go and buy that domain. They're not very expensive to buy the domain, especially if you don't, you're not going to use it. Some of the domains, again, a link that I've given you on GoDaddy, they cost something like 15 or 20 dirhams, depending on, the type of domain that you're buying. And it's always a good thing to make sure that you sort of protect what is your identity. So if there are similar domains to yours, and by similar, I mean similar enough that people might confuse somebody else's domain for yours or vice versa, buy those domains out. Make sure that you protect what sits on the web as yours. Then when it comes to building the website, again, this does not need to be expensive. Sites like Wix.com give you cheaper alternatives to building the website. You don't have to have a massively expensive website. Some of the marketing companies in the UAE, they charge a lot of money for this. If you have basic skills in terms of, you have an idea, you know what it is that you're looking for, sites like Wix.com, they give you the ability to build an easy website that can have everything that you need without having to spend too much money. And again, I will reiterate this, as an entrepreneur, we started the company just before COVID hit. We had no idea what was coming our way. And at that point, we had already invested in our online platform. Now, that can become a very expensive thing to do. So in the first couple of months, try and keep those overheads low. Look at the free elements that you have. Build as much as you can without having to spend too much of your startup capital to get this up and running. So one of the favorite things that we like to say is, we build this on a project basis. The project is there, we'll build. But without the project, the challenge might become financial. So let's rather not try and go too big if it is not really the focus right now. At the beginning of having your own company, your biggest focus should be business development, getting those sales in, doing marketing for it. There's a lot of ways to do great marketing without having to spend too much money. And that is the flyers, posts, and campaigns. When you look at building these, there's a lot of sites again, and I am very serious and I'm very focused when I say this. You don't have to spend a lot of money. You don't need a very expensive marketing company or a marketing department. Sites like Canva allows you to build flyers, posters, and campaigns for major social media sites in the right dimensions, the right shapes, the right pixelization for the pictures that you need to put on. And it also gives you tips and ideas. So what is the difference between static and rich media? And how do you use that? Where do you go to source your imagery? So there's a lot of those sites again. Like I said, Canva, very good site to use in the beginning if you have some time to do your own stuff. Or really, quite frankly, if you are still not really sure about how big you want to go with your marketing, but you do know that you have to be marketing your product, those are very good stuff to do. So they even allow, if you decide, depending on the platform that you use for your marketing, everything from the LinkedIn to Twitter to Instagram, they're all there. Facebook, they're all there in terms of building the right campaigns for the right platform. And when you start to look at this, look at the way that you want to sell it. How do you want to do this flyer? Do you want to go, a little bit more minimalist? Do you want to have rich imagery as opposed to a lot of text? Or do you just want to have a call to action? So a call to action is when you have a post that is basically, it's an image. There's maybe a small caption on the image on what it is that you're doing. And the call to action is click here to register, click here to buy, click here for more information. And a call to action is always a very good thing to have on your marketing. One, if it's not, if you don't get a sale from it, at least you might get some information from it. Did people click on it? Did they respond to it? Maybe there was, give me your email address and I'll send you more information. to start to collect that consumer data and information using your posts and campaigns. And again, they don't have to be expensive. A lot of sites allow you to post for free without having to pay to boost your post. I know when you have a business page, whether it's LinkedIn, Instagram, or Facebook, you can post and you don't have to pay for that post. One of the biggest things to always remember is when you do post on social media, and this is something, that not a lot of people tell you before the time, don't necessarily add the cost to your post. A lot of social media sites, they might actually decide to remove it purely for the basis that you've added cost to it. So rather have a link where people can click and they can get more information from you, and then you tell them, what does this cost? And in that way, you don't step on anybody's toes, but you at least still get your post and your campaigns out there. Then, of course, communicating with your customers. When we look at emails, we look at signatures, we look at how do you come across professional, again, without spending too much money. So there's a lot of email sites out there. If I could make one recommendation, is that when you do select an email, go with Gmail or go with Microsoft, which gives you an Outlook email address. Not just because there's so not just because there is those are the two popular ones, but one of the upsides of having either a Gmail or a Outlook email address is it gives you a whole suite of things that goes with it. Gmail provides you with an email address. You have the Drive functionality that allows you to at least start to create some archive or repository of all of your information. Gmail also has all of the documents that goes with it. So there's a lot of benefit to having one of those emails. Gmail allows you to create pre-written emails that can be sent out. The same goes for Outlook. When you're with Microsoft, all of those features, again, comes with it, but just from Microsoft's side. So when you start to look at that, really think about how do you want to use your email, not just for the purpose of sending emails, but also for all of the other stuff that comes with it. Do you need space as a cloud drive to be able to save things? Google Docs allows you to create registration forms or surveys that allows you to quickly, easily, and without, again, spending too much money, communicate with your audiences. There's a lot of templates that comes with having either Google or Microsoft. So it gives you a little bit of an advantage there. Now, I am using Google and Microsoft as examples, primarily because I don't really work with any of the other service providers. So if, Yahoo or Hotmail also provides that, I unfortunately will not, I won't have the information because I primarily work with these two. And I use them because of the professionality that they provide. You can have a very professional Gmail or Microsoft email address, and you can add very nice signatures to them. I have again given you a link where you can go and create a very beautiful, very professional signature for free. It allows you different designs, different functionalities. Do you want to add your social media links onto your signature? So all of those type of functionalities, I have provided a separate slide with all of these links and all of the stuff that I'm talking about today that you can go and explore at your own time, look at what you can use, and maybe see if some of it can help you. But your emails and your signatures, because this is how you communicate at the end of the day from a professional perspective, not from a social media marketing perspective with your clients or potential clients, it's always good to, think about it and then decide, where am I going with my emails and my signature? And your signature can say a lot about you. I know you can have the option of either adding your logo, or if you want to personalize a little bit more, you can put a picture of yourself there. You can change the colors, change the font, create something that suits not just you as an individual, but the brand and the look and the feel that you want to create when you communicate with people. And your signature can also be a powerful tool. A lot of signatures allows you to add in the social media links or click-throughs, or even, if you want people to just sort of engage with you a little bit, your signature can have the option there to book a meeting with me or request a callback. So there's a lot of powerful tools that you can use when using the right signature on your emails. Okay, so I quickly just want to check in with everyone, just quickly again from my side, just to see. I know we said that we will mostly have Q&A towards the end of it, but if there's anything in specific right now that has popped up into your mind, maybe just a quick question on some of the slides that we have covered. I think if you can maybe just quickly pop me a couple of messages. Or maybe if you have something else that you need to check with me, please let me know, and we can definitely chat to one another. Okay. Well, I will keep an eye on my inbox just in case something comes through. So we've now covered the idea and everything that needs to go into that. We have covered the brand and the look and the feel and how you use certain things, how you use your emails, how you use your signatures and your posts. Let's talk about the platform. So there's a lot of platforms out there that can be used when it comes to working on the social media, or even if you want to do a paid for platform where people can actually directly engage with you and buy from you. I know that with Instagram as an example, and I know some of the other platforms allow it as well. You create a business account, you add it to a store, you can sell and advertise your products on the platform. So there's quite a few things that can be done with those types of information. So let's talk social media. Social media is one of those tools that over the past couple of years, and even still now, a lot of people are questioning the power of social media. Believe it or not, we still have people that think, well, why should I use social media for selling? Social media can be one of your most strongest tools when it comes to selling. It's not the only one. There is no taking away from conventional business development. So when we look at social media and we look at some of the bigger social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, these are three of the platforms that allow you to create a business page where you can interact and sell and work with your clients or your prospective customers on a day-to-day basis. Now, let me tell you up front that when you go the social media route, always make sure that you have either yourself or someone that can monitor this for you. Social media is one of those things that you can't just post and hope that somebody's going to get back to you on it. If it was that easy, I think the entire world would just be using social media. You have to be very engaging. You have to be very active on your social media. When you start to post and sell on social media, you need to make sure that at least once a day, there is a post going out, there is a call to action going out, there is a new idea going out. So when you're dealing with social media, always remember that once you start with it, you have to continue. You can't start and hope that in a day or two's time, you can come back and hopefully there will be something there. So social media platforms, they're great for business, they're great for sharing, they're great for interacting, they're great for creating your posts. You can share a lot of your branding on social media and you can easily interact with people on social media. One of the challenges for social media is to create that following. So in the beginning, when you start to create your brand and you start to create, your plan and your platform, try and think about how are you going to get people to the platform. One of the things that I have found in the past that works the easiest for me is if I have a post on my Facebook, I sort of link it with my LinkedIn and I link it with my Instagram, so that if people are clicking on my Facebook, they can almost automatically see, okay, she's not just on Facebook, she's also on Instagram and on LinkedIn. And then they tend to go and explore the various areas. And people tend to, they tend to, based on their preference, they will either follow you on all of them, or they prefer to follow you on one or the other. And the same can be done on your website. Add your social media links to your website. Make sure that people are aware that you are in social media, and write your posts in such a way that when people look for it on the internet, hashtags is a very strong thing. Certain keywords, we've all seen this, if you go into Google and you type a specific phrase, you have more than one option coming up. That's because people use specific keywords that they have in mind when people search for things. So try and see if you can identify some keywords that goes with your posts that you're putting in, and use them very specifically. And use your hashtags. People love to add hashtags. And the great thing about hashtags are that because there's so many people that follow a hashtag or subscribe to a hashtag, when you use a specific hashtag, it pops up in somebody else's page. They will see, oh, there was a post on this particular hashtag. Maybe I should go and have a look at it. And that's how you start to bring people to your pages, get people to follow you. Because at the end of the day, word of mouth is a really good thing to have. Once you have followers, people recommend your page to other people. That's how a lot of following gets created. Start to build those links, start to build those hashtags, and start to look at how am I going to create my keywords so that my posts are not just posts, but they are meaningful and useful. And then one of the biggest questions when it comes to having an online platform is the payment gateways that goes with it. Now, when we deal with payment online, there's always, it doesn't matter who the organization is, there's always that question in the back end, is this secure? Is this a secure payment link? Do I know that when I do this, I'm not going to have my credit card used somewhere else in the world? For that specific reason, payment gateways are very, very important when you choose them. There's quite a few available in the UAE. PayPal is probably one of the most widely known payment gateways. It's also one of the payment gateways that has the lowest percentage that they take when people make payment to your PayPal. PayPal also allows you to do different currency payments. So you can either select UAE, so dirham, dollar, or wherever you want to have those payments made. And then the percentage that PayPal takes, because they do take a percentage, all payment gateways. So bear that in mind. When you do your sales, a percentage of the money that goes into your payment gateway gets retained by that provider. So there's quite a few to think about. There's quite a few that you can select from. I have, again, provided a link with some of the options here in the UAE. And you don't necessarily always need to go with an external one. If you bank with Emirates NBD, for example, they have a payment gateway. So you can directly, through Emirates NBD, apply for the necessary links to add to your website or to add to your platform that you're using for payment options, and you know they are safe and secure. So have a look at some of those, make your decision, but be very much aware of the fact that it's always going to be a question in the back of the mind. So make sure you have an authorized and secure payment gateway when you select one. And then bear in mind, they do take a percentage of the fee. So do not, be surprised when something like that happens. So as I've mentioned with the payment gateways, there's the banking side of it. So one of the biggest, I won't say it's the biggest challenges or one of the biggest worries that you have, but having a business bank account. When you register your company, you can no longer use the personal bank account unless you're registered as a freelancer in the UAE, when the company is then registered in your own name. So when you start to do that research on how you're registering the company, take that into consideration. If you're registering an organization under a specific name, there needs to be a bank account for that organization. If it's under your personal name, you're registering yourself as a freelancer, then your personal bank account is still, it's still a viable option. Choosing business banking accounts can be daunting and they can be confusing, but luckily there are so many options here in the UAE and so many people willing to help you. One of the questions that you always need to ask when you do your research on who do you bank with, and I do recommend that you search a little bit, ask some questions, get the right information in. One of the biggest and first questions, at least from my perspective, that you ask is what is the minimum balance that needs to remain in the bank in order for you not to pay penalties. So all business banking accounts have a minimum balance. So make sure that when you look at that information, that is the first thing that you ask, because the last thing that you want to do is to go over that minimum amount and you end up paying penalties because of that. So make sure that you have that in mind. Choosing the right bank, if you're going to be in the UAE, you're registering the company and you're only dealing with UAE businesses, it's fairly easy to select that. Any of the banks in the UAE makes it easy to make payments. Here in the UAE, they all sort of work on the same basis. So they all have a separate tab that you use when you log in, separate ways of dealing with your banking, separate fees that goes with it. So try and, don't necessarily try and look for an international bank just because you are hoping to deal with people outside of the UAE. So having an IBAN already makes it easy enough. And then make sure that you select a bank that works for you. You don't have to go with the biggest or most popular bank. Choose one that selects the right options for you. Make sure that the fees are reasonable. Make sure that the minimum balance is reasonable, and play around with some ideas before you just select something. But do remember that when you do go with that, if you're registering a company, it's a different bank account. If it's more of a freelancer, you might still have the option to continue using your personal bank account. And finally, one of the challenges that we as women face when we start to open our own business, when we start to move into the entrepreneurial space, is what I like to call the balancing act. So the balancing act, a lot of people refer to having to balance work and family. Now, one of the things that I think we as women sometimes don't really understand is there's a big difference between balancing work and family life and balancing self without the guilt. And the reason I say balancing self as opposed to balancing work and family life is because we each have our own narrative. We each have our own, context, our own lives. My balancing self is not necessarily the same as yours. Everybody has their own thing that they have to deal with, and we have our own levels of guilt. And by guilt, I really do mean when you are still working at 7 p.m. at night or even later, and you have a family that you need to take care of, you sort of have that guilt. How do you have to work, you have to get this done, but you also have the family. So balancing that self, balancing that equilibrium between family and work, responsibilities and work, friends and work, and also, and this is very important, yourself and your work can become a very big challenge. It's trying to find, I almost want to say, a way where you can live with yourself, that you are working until late at night, knowing that you're going to have to get up early tomorrow morning and start all over again. You feel like you haven't slept in days. You probably have not been taking care of yourself the way you normally do. And that self-care is very important. So one of the examples that a good friend of mine used to make, now we have very different narratives. I am an entrepreneur, I'm on my own, I don't have kids, I'm not married, which for My friend who has all of that seems completely odd. She's a stay-at-home mom. She loves her kids, and she does not envy me my life, and I don't envy her hers because we have our own challenges. But one of the examples that she used the one day when she saw me after almost a year, because we've been stuck in different countries, and she looked at me and she said to me, "You actually almost look like you might have gotten married and had kids in the past year." And the reason she said that is because having a young organization that you are trying to get off the ground is very much, from her perspective, like having a newborn in the house. It takes a lot of time, a lot of energy. You don't sleep when you need to. You don't eat when you should. You don't drink enough water during the day. You barely get out to have some exercise because all you do is you're focused on this infant of an organization. So when you start to look at finding that balancing self without the guilt, is how do you balance knowing that at some point your personal life might be on the lower end of the scale, and then other days the business might end up being on the lower end of the scale. Now, on that, I can give advice and I can tell you from my perspective, but because, like I said, my narrative and my context is different than yours, we each have our own ways of having to deal with this. We each have our own areas and struggles that we might find. So when we start to look at this and we start to look at the planning, we start to look at the idea, we start to look at everything that we've now talked about, we have to find a way to be comfortable with what we are going to be doing here. A lot of us might not always have, all of the time to be able to put into this. Maybe your business idea right now is something that you want to start while you already have a day job, or you have so many other responsibilities, but you have to start somewhere, you have to do something. So when you start to move into that space of trying to figure out, how am I going to do this? One of the biggest and most important things that you need is a proper supporting structure. If you don't have that, try and find it amongst friends or family. If even that is a struggle for you, try and find it amongst peers, people that you have in your life. And then, even if that becomes a challenge, try and find it within yourself. You have to make time for yourself when you go through all of this. And I will use myself as an example again. When we started PCL in 2019, I had a day job. I was already working full time. So most of my time for PCL went during the evenings and over the weekends. But I can still remember, I almost want to say, the amount of energy and enthusiasm that I had when I started off with this. And then as you start to hit the first challenges, hit those first hurdles, you sort of feel like, I can't do this. I don't have the energy for this. I don't have the capacity for this. And the reason you start to think that is because when you start to hit failure, failure does not change your idea that you have, because even when you're failing, you still have this idea in the back of your head. You still know what it is that you want. Failure starts to hit your belief. It starts to hit your belief in yourself. And your energy will start to drain. You will start to feel like you're not going to be able to get this done. But if you have, I almost want to say, as long as you have that idea and that belief that you can do this, at some point you find the balance, you find the way forward, and you find how to deal with this. You start to work through those struggles and challenges that you might have. Yes, you're going to have late nights and you're going to have early mornings, and you're going to have days where you have 2 cups of cold coffee on your desk because you just did not get around to it because you're so busy. But let me tell you, after 2 years of doing this, I would not change a thing. Well, maybe I'll try and sleep a little bit more, but that's about it. At the end of the day, finding that balance without the guilt is your narrative. And you can't expect somebody else to understand it, but just as you can't expect them to understand it, they also can't expect you to try and change it. Because one of the most important things when you're starting your own organization as I said, is your why. Why are you doing this? Because if it's just, I want to start my own company and I see where this wants to go, that's great. Then go for it. But if there is a very specific reason for it, if there's a integral part of you that says, I have to do this, then find that why, hold on to that why, put it on a poster in your house if you have to, but that becomes your focus, that becomes your drive. And finding that balance, that's a balance that you find within yourself. And at the end of the day, only you can maintain that balance. Only you can tell people, look, I know I have to do this with you today. I can't because I have to focus on what I'm busy with. And if you have the right supporting structure, if you have people that believe in you, they will understand. They will be there for you and they will help you where they can. If you have the family that can help you with this, rely on them. Have them help you where you need them to, even if it is just come and pull me from my desk so that I can have my dinner. Otherwise, I'm not going to do it. So I really do hope that at least helps to some extent. Now I'm going to add one more of these before we move into the final bit. This is just for myself a little again. You have the code already. You should have the website. I am going to move over to that one. And I want you to tell me, what are some of the worries that you have when it comes to the balancing act? And not because I want to be here and tell you, okay, this is what you have to do, but maybe as a collective group of women all online right now, we just might have some advice or experience from our own lives that we can use to share. Because at the end of the day, as women, when it comes to building each other, we don't always do that the way we should. And I can say that not just from experience, but also from having seen it in life. The moment we as women start to stand together, whether it is a potential for you or just a friend for you, or maybe even somebody that you don't even know, helping another woman rise should, at the end of the day, as women leaders, be what we really strive to do, because that is where we start to build those connections and those platforms and those lifelong friends that you have. I still have one particular mentor. She met me when I was 19. I was a kid that thought I was going to rule the world. I am now 34 years old. And she's still in my life. She's still the person that I turn to when I need advice or just a shoulder to pack my worries onto, because she has been an inspiration and a mentor to me my entire life, my entire career. And that is the type of support that you need in your life when you start to move into the space of wanting to make your own way as a woman leader, as a business owner, as somebody that is moving into the world of work where you want to start to make a difference based on what it is that you believe in. So I'm quickly going to switch over to that one. And then let's see if there is something that we can help each other with. You should be able to access this now. If you're not, please drop me a message and we can talk about it. So I think while we wait for everybody to come through and start to send through what they worry when it comes to the balancing act, I'll tell you a little bit about mine. So I have been on my own since I was 16 years old. So one of my biggest worries at that point in my life was, how am I going to finish school and actually make something of my life? That was a worry that I eventually came through. I no longer had to, I had some family members that stepped in, people that were there for me. Then came university, 16 years old, on your own, having finished high school. People have helped, but now comes the next challenge in your life. I opted to find a part-time job so that I can make that happen as well. So at some point, those worries had to morph into not just how do I afford university, but how do I afford life? Having moved on from that, having graduated with way too much student debt, but something that you eventually, you manage it. Finding my first job, having to get to the office and back. I did not have a license, did not drive. I still don't drive. But luckily, I now live in a country where public transport has been enabled, and we can actually do that. And then having moved on from that, I have lived and worked in 17 different countries in my life, and I have spent a lot of time on my own. And one of my biggest worries were, how am I going to do this on my own? It's been a worry that I've had for a very long time. And over the years, those worries have not changed. They've just had a different focus. So we have some of the stuff coming up in terms of health, family and kids, capital. And these are all very legitimate worries. When it comes to your health in terms of the balancing act, it is one of those balancing stones that you have to try and find within yourself. Having the challenge when it comes to health, unless it is making sure that you eat properly, you drink water when you're supposed to, you get your exercise. I have actually found that at least creating a structure of my life, what time I get up in the mornings, what time I eat breakfast, when do I go for my walk, when do I get up from my desk just to stretch. In the beginning of my career, I had quite literally set specific reminders for every single one of them. I brought structure into my life. I had to make sure that I don't skip one of these, and it takes considerable effort. When you're in the middle of building something and you have to stop to eat lunch, you might tell yourself, I'll have lunch in another hour. I just quickly need to finish it. But before you find yourself, that hour has become 2 hours and you still haven't eaten. So create some structure in your life, create some habits that you can start to pick up on, even if you have to create alarms for yourself so that you know at certain points, what do I have to do when, and try and stick with those. See if that helps you. When it comes to the family and the kids, again, my narrative completely different from yours. I don't have family, I don't have kids. And that for me is not, it's not something that I consciously think about. It's not something that I miss in my life. But when somebody else has those challenges, for them, that's a very legitimate concern that they have. So if you do have, hopefully, a supporting partner, try and explain to them that when you go into starting this organization, you are not just doing this for yourself. I'm assuming that you are also doing this for the family and the kids, and that you just need someone that can help you with that, someone that can at least just step in when you can't. And then having sort of an agreement to say, okay, tonight I'm working late, but tomorrow I'll start a little bit later in the morning so that I can spend some time with you and the kids. So try and find, that balance between how you deal with it. We're getting in a couple of good ones right now. The capital, that's always a big challenge. If it's not something that you can fund yourself, getting loans might be, not really always a consideration for people. But then the other option is always to try and find investors or partners. Find somebody that agrees or sees your vision and is willing to invest in the company to help you try and get it off the ground. So I have here, currently I'm working as a logistics and sales manager and able to balance my personal and professional life. However, my vision is to start my own business, which I think would be difficult to manage my business. Yeah, starting your own company while you have a day job, yes, it is a challenge. I can tell you that from personal experience. It is not the easiest thing to do. But if your vision is to start your own business, if that is something that you really want, then you need to find the time. Now, I probably spent about 6 months prior to actually registering PCL and getting the partners that I have in the company to actually do the research, look at some of the structures, write some of the training programs. And I did that in my spare time. And the reason I did that is because I knew that if I had to register the company and then try and do all of that while having a day job, I don't think I would have managed it, to be quite honest. I do think that if you take the time to at least build some of the stuff in the background while you have, some free time here and there, start with that. Start with creating your ideas. Start with writing the business plan. Do the research. Try and find out as much as you can before you actually make the shift. If you register your company as a freelancer, one of the challenges that you might have having a day job is getting the NOC from your current employer, because that is something that you have to take into consideration. So unless you are in a position where you're 100% certain that I am going to shift from day job to own organization, try and do as much as you can while you still have some free time in your current day job. And then once you're ready and you're 100% certain and you know this is what I want to do, at least just from my side, then take that plunge. Make sure you have what you need and give yourself a deadline. If you're going to start your own company and you know that you might potentially have to leave your day job to do that, tell yourself, okay, for the first 6 months, I'm going to try and build this company while I have my day job. And then if the company seems to be taking off and it seems to be doing well, make the decision. Are you staying with the day job or are you putting everything you have into bringing your company off the ground? And then depending on that decision, if you do decide that you're going to put everything into it, which means you are quitting your job and taking the deep dive end into creating your company, still put a deadline for yourself, but don't use it as a safety line. If you're going to go the entrepreneurial route, you need to I almost want to tell you upfront, make peace with the fact that there's going to be failure. And you need to be able to learn from that failure and not have that failure break your belief. So getting the balance itself is what worries me. With the priorities on my head, work and kids, I will forget myself. Making a schedule for everything while being a full-time mom, because domestic assistance is very far-fetched in our area, is a challenge. And it is a challenge. And as I mentioned earlier, I quite literally created a schedule for myself. Now, once you start to get into that routine, you have to also be a little bit flexible with the routine, but not to an extent, like I mentioned earlier, where you'll say, it's time for lunch, but you decide, oh, never mind that. I'll have lunch in another hour. So putting that time aside for yourself and putting that time aside to also take care of yourself, it can be a challenge, especially with home, work, and kids and everything else that goes with it. But you do have to create that routine. You do have to create something where you can start to say, okay, this is how I'm going to start my day. This is how I'm going to deal with my afternoon. This is how I'm dealing with my morning. This is how I'm dealing with my evening. Where do I cut? Where do I take some extra time? Where do I spend more time, maybe an extra hour working so that tomorrow I can spend some time with the family and the kids? So it's starting to create that routine, and then also at least taking, even if it is just half a day. So you don't always have the capability or the luxury to take a full day for yourself. So set out half a day. Just to say, okay, today, just me. And if you have the luxury to say, I'm closing the door, I'm taking a nice long bath, I'm giving myself a facial, then do that. But always remember to take care of yourself first, and not in a I almost want to say a selfish way, but in a way that you can say to yourself, okay, I'm okay, family is okay, So the work or the company will also be okay. So I've got a couple of minutes left before we move into official Q&A. Any other comments here? Any other captions to be added in? Okay, so I think then, Supriya, from your side, at least if there's anything else to add in, if any of the participants want me to go back to a particular slide, maybe talk a little bit more about that slide, please do let me know.
Right. So do we have any questions, or would anybody like Miss Marina to go back to any slide? Right.
Ladies, you are more than welcome if you want to raise your hand or maybe unmute and speak to me directly. More than happy to take any questions at this point, or even just if you want to share maybe some of the thoughts and ideas from your side. Maybe you have some advice on what we have covered today that you would like to share from your perspective. So if you want to, at the bottom where we have the reactions, you can either raise a hand or if you want to unmute yourself and you can speak to me directly.
You may even leave your questions in the chat box. If you are not able to unmute and ask, feel free to use the chat box.
So I have a direct message from Thilda. Am I pronouncing that correctly? She says she just joined a little bit late. Not a problem, Thilda.
All right. So I think probably you know the questions were coming out through the chat box earlier. So, but if anybody would like to share any of their experience and get and share any of their advice, if they have already started or or in maybe in the initial stages of the process, that is also welcome. I think, Ms. Marina, there is a comment for you in the chat box from Shehnaz.
Yes, you are very welcome. I'm sure that you're welcome to reach out to the Lincoln team if any further information is required, or even if anybody wants to get in contact with me directly. I am more than happy, to correspond over email if anybody wants to speak to me directly, maybe afterwards.
So in case you all are wondering where you can find the recording, the video is available on our YouTube channel. The channel name is the same as our university, Lincoln University of Business and Management. You can find that on YouTube, and you can go back and listen to the recording if you want. If you may also subscribe to our channel, and we'll be very happy to have you on board on our YouTube channel as well. And for all our women learners here today, please definitely, and all learners here today, definitely visit our website, www.lincoln-edu.ae. Please look at all our various programs. You can find various programs of different levels, our diplomas, bachelor's and master's. And in case you like any program, please do register for it. our women prospects will be getting an additional discount of AED 500 on their course fee. So it's a wonderful offer. Please make use of it. And also, I think for Miss Marina, I thank you so much for a wonderful talk today. It was not just about practical skills and advice about business, but I think it was really heartfelt, very grounded in your personal experience. So that I think has made us all feel very, very personally connected to whatever learnings you have given to us today. Thank you so much for being here with us.
It's my absolute pleasure, Supriya. Thank you for having me, ladies, and thank you all for being here with us today. I really do hope that you found the session informative, and also maybe just a couple of ideas that you can work with. I have shared a separate slide with the Lincoln team. I don't know. I hope you don't mind to share that with the participants. With all of the links on everything that I've talked about today, where they can maybe go and do some more research, find out a little bit more about starting your own company. And as I said, people are also welcome to reach out to me if they wanted to.
So thank you all for joining. And thank you all so much for joining. This session will be continued tomorrow as well at the same time with Miss Marina. And please make sure you join us. And we look forward to having you there tomorrow. And for now, it's goodbye from Lincoln University of Business and Management. Have a wonderful weekend, and we will all see each other again tomorrow. Thank you, Miss Marina.
Thank you
You,
so very
the
much.
team at LUBM.
Thank you so much.
That's great, Lynn. Yes, we do have MBAs that we offer. So for further information on the MBA program, you can contact one of our admissions officer, or right, since you've already registered for a program, you have many of our contacts. Please write to them and they will guide you on how to register for an MBA program. The link for the participation certificate has been put in the chat box. Please make sure you click on that and claim your participation certificate.